GM, daily levels. Let's go. So, first, today on Thursday, 23rd of November, we'll look at Bonk. So, I'm already in a short that began as a scalp on Bonk. I'm going to leave the rest of it open for a potential 60 to 80% drawdown. So 60% will be here from the most recent peak. 80 will be down here. Actually nicely down into the daily bands. And the reason is Binance listings tend to mark a peak. We have seen negative reaction so far off of Binance listing. Nothing crazy though. Nothing crazy on Bonk specifically. It was here, launched on Wednesday, reacted downwards, 3 big wicks up into the highs, pushing down. So this is not a call to short Bonk. Very, 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 very clear here. But I think Bonk can go higher, for sure. It's also still above this breakout level, which is marked with my alert. And it may well go up. If it gets below that level, then it's pretty solid bet for it to continue on down to the 60 and the 80% drawdown. I'm only doing this because if you've watched and if you've looked through trading analysis, you'll have seen my trade play out so far. Okay. So I shorted Bonk at the Binance perp listing liquidity level, held as resistance, took profit here, and the rest is open. If it flushes lower, it could head towards my third target, and I may take profit down there, but I'm more inclined to leave the rest with a stop at break even. So I've locked in my profits in the first part. I'll leave the rest open in case we do get a typical retracement. This is very common when meme coins get listed on Binance. You saw it with SHIB, and you can see how when a meme coin loses interest, it loses interest fast, and it goes down. SHIB went 89% down to the bottom. Pepe went down similar. I think slightly less, but Pepe went down 85% to the bottom, 86%. And there are many cases of this. What other ladies, did they even go on? Did they even go on Binance? They didn't even go on Binance. They went on Bybit. Where's the Bybit pair? Anyway, you can see that my ladies, another meme coin that was hyped on launch, went down 93%. What other meme coins were there on Binance? Categories, meme. See if we recognize any of these. Don't think Flocky's on it. Meme coin itself, that's still a fairly new one. They're probably the only ones that went on Binance. Did Wojak go on Binance? I don't think it did. No, never got listed. So there's 3 examples. Ladies didn't get on Binance, but the principle remains the same. Pepe and SHIB, similar, right? And so you've also got Pepe 2, which I don't think went on Binance, but it went on Bybit. Again, same thing. Down 97%, right, over the 2 or 3 months after. So Bonk, again, Bonk might go higher. Bonk isn't weak necessarily, but this is a tendency on these listings for that to happen. And it's very simple. There is no more liquidity. There are no more new buyers. right, at this moment. Everybody who could possibly want to buy Bonk can buy it. The only listing missing is maybe a Coinbase listing. That's what kept everybody long Pepe, and Coinbase never listed Pepe. So Coinbase won't list Bonk if there's no hype, and if there isn't extreme hype, which there might be later in the cycle. But if you've been around long enough, you'll know that this could go down 80%, right? And then fucking smash to multi-billion market cap, and then get listed on Coinbase next year. So that's just the way it goes. That's the game, and that's how I'm playing it. So this is not a call to short. Remember, I'm already in a short. I've taken profit. I'm at break even. So just be mindful of that if you're thinking of shorting too. Bitcoin. So watching now on BTC, following this path on the green. There's two ways it can go. It can either come back down all the way to 36.8, or what I think we're doing, given this strength we're having on BTC, get rid of this, leave that VWAP level there. Trend line, liquidity's been hit. Just want to clean this up a little bit. And I'm watching now for a test of the 50 EMA or 50 MA. They're both kind of oscillating around similar levels. So this consolidation has been exactly what I would like to see. It's got a flat bottom on it. If Bitcoin comes down into this area, so I'm already long BTC, and I would add, if we get a valid retest of these bands, to go for a breakout, right? So the band will come along here, band will come along here, whichever one it hits. First target will be hitting the 50s, like it does over here, like it does over here, but also this is what it's most similar to now. We had a break of structure, right? Price went up, broke structure, consolidated, dipped down into the bands, away it goes. Keep it simple. Will it work? Who knows? But that is a good entry, a typical place to look at price to react in a new trend. Now, are we in a new trend? This is the question. We don't know yet. Are we in a new trend? We have broken structure. We have moved price up, right? So here was the highest point we had. We just closed above it here last night, just about, but then this morning we have firmly closed above it. So this structure's broken. There are equal highs above, right? Relatively equal highs. You've got 1, 2, 3, now a fourth. This wick did not take out that one. At least I don't think it did. Maybe it did actually. Depending on the exchange. It did. It did on Bybit. Some exchanges are different, but again, principle is the same. Main liquidity is above here. And so if Bitcoin's going to begin a strong trend, I would expect that this gap does not fill entirely. Okay, so same range trading principle. Sorry, same trend trading principle. This gap will not fill entirely. A wick down into it is fine. I don't think it will go all the way down. It should hold at the 50s and then it should push to new highs. That's the trade. Very simple. And that's where I would consider adding. Now, I don't add on the sweep. I don't set my orders directly at that level. I would set some orders below it, right? I would set some orders in this area. So if it was right now, just in between the two, right? So in between the two MAs, the MA and the EMA on the 50 period for a 1 hour, I would set some orders, not a full size. If I wanted to add 1 hour, let's say, I would put about half hour here and then wait for the reaction. Mostly what I'm waiting to see is, does it come back up? And as soon as it gets back up and closes inside, I might check order flow, I might check liquidations to see has there been some shakeout, has there been some short-term traders wrecked. If there has, all good. I would then enter at that point the rest of the position. It gives you the main thing you need as a trader. It gives you invalidation. That's all that really matters as a trader. You need to have invalidation. If you know where you're wrong, then you can take your trade and accept the consequences, whether it wins or loses. So that's BTC on the bands perspective, if we go take off the 50, put on the 100 and 200, I'm just looking at EMAs here. MAs, EMAs, they're not the same thing, obviously, they're different things, but whether you use one or the other, it's entirely personal preference. Yeah. So I'll go out as far as the daily. Bitcoin had a really good daily close, compressing up to the top corner of this range, top corner of the box as well. It's formed a box up here. We're now consolidating up at the top end. It spent more time at the top than it has at the bottom part of the box, as I talked about on stream yesterday. We've still got the EMAs or EMAs below that haven't been touched. I think they will get touched eventually. However, there's been several attempts to go lower and they've all rejected upwards, so I think we go for the highs first. Now, if price doesn't hit the 50 on the 1 hour, so like I said, if I go back to 1 hour, if price doesn't come down and hit these first and it goes up and takes out the highs, that trade's invalidated. Because if it hits the highs here, 38.2, 38.3, and then comes back inside, you don't want to be buying that because it's taken the liquidity, the buy stops, the shorts liquidity. It's grabbed that liquidity above and then come back inside. So that puts you in a territory of a potential false breakout. So you don't want to, you want to just reassess your approach at that point, right? 12 hour, we've had a nice holding of the 50 EMA. I wondered, did we hit the 50 MA? We did. Right, so the 50 has already been respected and is holding on trend for the 12 hour. That's very good. I'll just go through some other random time frames. 8 hour, a couple of traps below it. 6 hour, down as close as maybe the 100 on the MA. So if I put on the, yeah, we've hit the 100 MA, the orange line has held on the 6 hour. It's nice. So bands are providing support at different time frames. 4 hour gets a little bit choppier, but on the higher time frames, trend is still holding, trend is good. Let's put on the Michaels bands, get an update on those. So I think anything from 6 hour beyond, no, 8 hour, still green, 12 hour, still strong, and the daily, we're still holding strong. The daily especially, which is obviously the most important time frame next to the weekly, the daily has held with multiple tests, multiple touches, and this was undoubtedly a bearish close on Tuesday, but just a ripping reversal the following day to hold it back up, very much like we had over here. Now, of course, same thing could happen again. We might nuke back down, but with the developments that I talked about, CZ, Binance, right? I think that this push didn't break out because, you know, Binance and the insiders knew that there was bad news coming about CZ and about Binance, which was going to cause the market to react emotionally. So breaking it out before then was probably not a good idea, and probably less incentive for people to push it higher before that news dropped. Because when the news dropped, it pushed it down to 35.8, got some more nice fills for smart money, and away we go again. There's now clarity, right? It's basically, I said this in my in trading analysis on the day of the Binance dip, there is now total clarity around ETFs. There's basically nothing standing in the way, to the point where the SEC commissioner, Pierce, she came out and said there is no reason why we wouldn't approve them. And we talked about this, and I've talked about this all year. It's like, you want BlackRock, you want the institutions, you're going to have to also take their ruthless fuckery. And one of the things that was said by many commentators, and I would fully agree with it, is that the reason ETFs have been rejected for so long, for literally 10 years, has always been that there is not a regulated market in the US of sufficient size. That is the exact phrasing of why the SEC kept rejecting spot Bitcoin ETFs. They said there is not a regulated spot market of sufficient size in the US, and there is too much uncertainty around basically the offshore exchanges, because they don't have any clarity, they don't have any transparency. And under the guise of protecting investors, which is obviously bullshit, but we all know it's just a game, the SEC was saying, no, we're not approving this because it would be bad for investors to have these, you know, shady offshore exchanges, manipulating price, blah, blah, blah. Well, they've just got rid of Binance, right? Binance, in effect, is done for all intents and purposes in terms of their old way of working. Now, Binance will still remain the biggest crypto native exchange. That they will not lose that spot overnight. Over time, they probably will. But the SEC and the DOJ, the Department of Justice, have taken the steps that are needed to take in order to approve BlackRock's ETF. And of course the others, but of course this whole game is about BlackRock. So it is not a surprise, guys. It is not a surprise that... So here's a few things. If you run the timeline, you'll see how there's no coincidences. I mean, it's just the most... It's a fascinating game. This was the day where Coinbase got sued, I believe. Or no, it was either this day or this day. Binance, Coinbase, both got SEC cases and Binance sued by the DOJ within 2 or 3 days of each other, right? Then price couldn't go lower, reversed, and all of a sudden, who announces their ETF approval or ETF application? On the 18th, 19th of June, BlackRock. Here, boom, away we go. Days, merely days after the case was taken against Binance, BlackRock announced their application. Fast forward, we've had all the good news, all the FUD in between, right? Between maybe they don't get approved, oh, they're going to get approved, oh, fake approval, blah, blah, blah. Then what happens? CZ hands himself over and says, look, I'm taking the bullet for my company. It was just me. I'm taking responsibility. And he's really... Honestly, the decision he's taken has been extremely... I don't know if brave is the right word. Obviously, like, I'm sure he'll be fine, and he's very smart. Like, CZ's extremely capable. But he has certainly taken a massive hit to himself, his personal position in his company, his personal, his reputation among certain people as well, all for the betterment of Binance. And he's worked an amazing deal. Binance has to comply with the DOJ, so they're going to have to share information. They're going to have to be more transparent as part of this deal. And that's what they wanted in order to approve the ETFs, because now they have insight into the biggest spot exchange. He then gets banned for 3 years, so he's barred from his own company for 3 years, but then he can come back. So all things considered, that is a pretty solid win, notwithstanding the $4 billion fine. But yeah, no coincidences. This has now opened the door and removed the biggest hurdle to approval. There's now the fudsters and the doomers are now saying that, oh, well, unless Tether collapses or gets taken down, there's not going to be ETFs. I don't think that's the case. I think they will still absolutely come after Tether, but Tether are very smart too. They are complying with the US government, fucking extremely cooperatively. They are freezing hundreds of millions of dollars of funds linked to whatever, traffickers, human traffickers or hackers or terrorism and all that. So they're doing everything they can to stay on the right side of the government, which is a smart play again. And so now, like I said, the Bloomberg guys were saying 90% chance of approval. All of this, since June, July, August, September, 90% chance of approval, right? Especially after Grayscale won their favorable ruling. Grayscale are now reapplying and refiling, so they are also in the mix to convert GBTC into an ETF. And I said the other day, this pretty much puts the odds at 100%. And I wouldn't be surprised if the market reacted very quickly to price it in, and it did just that. And so, again, you can tie yourself up in knots and think what if and try and psy-op yourself, but you just have to look at it and say, with all the information, the way it's all moving now, price looks set to go up, at least to 38.5, maybe to 40. Who knows what happens, when it happens, but that seems to be the path we're on right now. After that, who knows? Do we go to 48? Do we go to 53? Do we stop at 40 and drop down to 33? Anything can happen. There will be wild volatility. The ETF approvals themselves still seem like they're not going to come until 10th of January. Now, it could come before that. And by the way, don't mistake this. Now that it's out of the way, I'm not sure when the next window is, right? Because there are certain windows when they can approve. But now that the whole Binance thing's out of the way, don't be surprised if things move rapidly towards ETF approval, even before the 10th of January. So that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm prepared for. I'm long. I'm looking to buy at that dip I mentioned with the 1 hour EMA. And that's pretty much it. Looking across alts, ETH holding up really well. I said a few days ago that I think ETH is forming this consolidation. It's done just that. I think it's basing before a breakout. Now, will ETH break out or will it false break out first? Look, a couple of things. Whenever price comes right up to resistance and stops, that's usually good. If it doesn't take that liquidity, which it didn't, and it consolidates, that often means it's building a nice base to break out much higher. That's usually a very good sign. Not always, but usually. Do be aware that a false breakout to 22 and then all the way back in to 19 or 18, totally possible. As is a breakout fully to 25, who knows? We'll wait and see. We'll see how that goes. I do think Bitcoin will still lead initially and ETH will lag. Altcoins, Solana remaining resilient, but I think Solana is just in a consolidation. I don't think it's going to go for big, strong trends. I tend to think more people are probably long Sol than short now, right? So they've started to convince themselves that buying at 50, 55, 60, 65 is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. I think if you're just patient and you wait for the 200-day retest whenever that comes, now that can be months away. This 200-day will snake its way up to 39 or 40 over the next few weeks. And I think Solana might make its way back down there if the market pulls back. Arbitrum had a really deep dip down into the 90s. So my original trade, I reduced my ARB trade. I mentioned this in trading analysis. I cut it in half whenever ARB was at $1 or 101. 102 is the exact number, sorry. Because not even that I'm bearish ARB, I'm just thinking that with Arbitrum's play, the position trade playing out to March 2024, right, when the token unlock is, ARB has a lot more time on its hands and has dipped down and has grabbed even more liquidity below. So it's now taken all these stops. And yeah, that's basically the path I mentioned. So I think ARB can recover back up now and start to form a wider base. But if you're looking at it from a perspective now of what a potential, like a box would look like, well, ARB would have to come all the way up, right? It would have to come all the way up and probably come back, maybe false breakout, come back inside, and then start the base, and then break out, going into end of this mid-December, end of December into January. That would make sense. Maybe it just rips straight up. I mean, Arbitrum can do that, up only when it wants to go. But we'll see. My problem with the ARB trade, it was a great trade in principle. It's worked out pretty much as I expected so far. This dip was a little bit lower. It's moving slower than I thought. And I do think the ARB trade is crowded. So that's why it keeps chopping down. It's grabbing stops. It's frustrating people. It's stopping them out. It's dipping back below the 200-day. I think a lot of that is to shake people out because it is such a hyped up trade. So I do believe ARB goes much higher. But first of all, there can be some volatility. And I'll not look through all the alts, but I'll go to Total 3. Total 3 had a nice reversal yesterday as well, along with the rest of the market. But as I've said, my base case on Total 3, which isn't on this chart, but I've talked about it, is chop for quite a while, right? Chopping around. If it takes the highs, I'd expect a false breakout. Chop, and then move up. I don't know if it's going to take this long. It might just be a couple of weeks. It might be a month, whatever. It could be anything up to 2 months. You have to understand. Remember, the market has the altcoin market has trended since it broke the 200-day, which is here. So let's class that as the start of the altcoin trend. That was 23 days. The market trends about 20% of the time, 15, 20%. The rest of the time it ranges or consolidates. So if you've had 23, 24 days of trend, you could easily see 60, 70 days of consolidation, right? So anything from into January, maybe even towards February, you could easily see that. This is the altcoin market as a whole. There will be coins trending within that, but as they trend, others will cool off. The ones that ran first, your Solanas, your Injectives, your Links, they're more likely to cool off. Other stuff might run, but in total, I think the altcoin cap is going to chop for a little while. And that's best case, by the way. Worst case, well, not even worst case, but it would be actually great if it pulled back, because that would give some good entries. But if you want to call it worst case, it could actually trend down, right, and really flush people out and shake them out. That would be if the whole market, though, would go down. The whole market would need to go down for that to happen, like even Bitcoin. So I don't think that happens like a strong trend down, consistent trend down. I don't think that happens until after the ETF, but you never know. Anything could happen. So that's where we're at. That's the update. That's the market. GM, Thursday. Let's see how we move going into tomorrow. We have options expiry tomorrow. So is Bitcoin going to run to that magic 40k level? Let's take a quick look at there a bit and see how the open interest is looking. 40k is still the big level. Yeah, 40k still has the biggest. Sorry, November 24. There we are. 40k. That call wall the Professor Ayush talked about. 36k being rock solid support. So we talked about this. So Professor Ayush said that 36k would be rock solid support. Where did Bitcoin dip down to? 35.7, 35.8. As soon as it got below 36, bought back up heavily. Absolutely perfect call by Ayush as usual. And so that's what we're looking at now. All right. GM. See you all on live stream later, 5 p.m. UTC.